Hi, my name is John Barrett with PM Consultants, and I'm joined here today with Garrett Loesch, who's the Chief Financial Officer for the Borough of Tuckerton. Welcome, Garrett.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, listen, Garrett, you are, as I mentioned, the Chief Financial Officer for the Borough. And to become a Chief Financial Officer, what kind of things do you need to do? Any kind of courses, certifications that you need?
There is a detailed license you have to earn from the state. It involves many courses and state exams. But there's kind of an overall, you really need hands-on experience in doing things. Some of those are your annual financials that you have to do, from an annual financial statement to an annual debt statement. Of course, your budget, your annual budgets, things of that sort.
So when you take these classes, I know there are 8 classes with the Rutgers Center for Governmental Studies. A 9th one if you don't have any accounting background. It's always a good helpful one. But you need 8 of those classes completed with passing grades. And then depending on your experience, other credentials you might have, such as an accounting degree or an advanced degree, you then become eligible to sit for the exam for the state, correct?
That is correct.
Right, and it's actually in 2 parts. Normally given first in the morning and of course in the afternoon. And these are intense tests. They're offered twice a year to become a CFO. And once you pass that test, you become licensed. And that's what you did, correct?
That is correct. And then you're required for continued education credits and have to earn those, and every 2 years renew
your license, right? Because it does cost $50, right? That's for the renewal. But you actually have to take 30 continuing education credits. And we get those at the GFOA conference down in Atlantic City, the League of Municipalities, and also we have other venues for continuing education, like the other professions.
Since COVID, it was more available online too. You
Right.
can take a class online, it become a little easier.
Now you mentioned, as a CFO of a town, you're responsible, I mean, unless there's an administrator, financially the buck stops as the CFO because your job is to help prepare the budget, maintain cash flow, even in cases like this, do payroll, right? Payroll's a fun
true.
one.
Depending on the town, sometimes you wear many hats.
Right. And do you, of course, we never like to say no to a department head. We never like to say no to a politician. But I think one of the things that you do when you're a chief financial officer is you have to be firm, because a lot of the department heads, a lot of the politicians, they don't know the laws. And ultimately, you have a license that's granted to you by the Division of Local Governmental Services. They promulgate rules that we have to live by through local finance notices and other laws. And ultimately, you could lose your license for malfeasance, correct?
And maybe even more.
And maybe even more, right? So saying no to a politician when they're in your face and say, listen, we want to build this, we want to buy a new fire truck or something to appease, and not say your town specifically, but these are the wants and wishes of politicians, because ultimately politicians want to say yes. They want to say yes to the constituent. They want to fill the need. But ultimately, when it gets pushed off to you, say, hey, okay, Garrett, how do we buy a new ambulance? How do we buy a new truck for DPW?
The procedures of purchasing, I mean, there are purchasing agents, but the CFO still oversees all factors of that. Right. And they don't understand, because they haven't been trained on how to purchase something properly. Mm-hmm. Following state statutes, bringing everything into course, and the steps that are required. And we oversee that, certainly. Municipal clerk is another tool that is used in that case, and they should have a general understanding and knowledge. But ultimately, I'm the one that's going to sign a certification of funds on every one of those papers.
Right, so certification of funds is something that you, when we do a council resolution primarily to, say, buy something, if you want to redo your website and hire a company, the CFO has to say and certify on the resolution that there are available funds budgeted for this purpose. And that's very important, because if that certification of funds is not there, a governing body can overexpend an appropriation. They can make promises, in essence, that we as CFOs can't deliver upon. So they're always asking us for certification of funds. But also, as a chief financial officer, you're doing kind of routine stuff like reconciling bank accounts every month.
Yes.
Monitoring cash flow, looking at any type of fraudulent activity, because right now in this day of identity theft and issues with regard to electronic payments, we are constantly monitoring the banking activity. The banks are sending us sometimes emails or outstanding items that might say mismatch. In this day and age, we have situations where a check is issued to Ace Carding, and all of a sudden that's intercepted in the mail. Don't know how, but somehow it was intercepted in the mail, and the check gets cleared for Jim Smith. In that, when we have a mismatch like that, the bank normally contacts us and says, hey, listen, is this check a fraud? And that's one of the best parts about working tightly with the bank.
You need a good relationship with your bank.
100%.
Or your banks, because you can have multiple banks. You do need you need to establish it and maintain a good relationship with your bank. I do here. I've always had a good relationship, and I'm usually in the bank a few times a week and chatting and bringing up things.
Right.
So they're comfortable with me also.
Right. They know you. They know who you are.
And they have my cell phone, and they know it's 24/7. If something pops up, you call me at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night. I don't care.
Now, as Chief Financial Officer, you're also working with two other professionals day to day, for the most part, in the area of revenue. Because as the Chief Financial Officer takes in the revenue and records it, we have the tax assessor who keeps us up to date on any type of tax appeals that might affect our valuation base, that might have effect on the tax rate. And also our tax collectors in every municipality have to work hand in hand with you, because sometimes they might have a bounce check, a payment that gets rejected, and you need to contact them to say, hey, listen, this account's delinquent, they sent the check got bounced, and then they have to go after that taxpayer and basically adjust their account.
And I'm sure in every town, I know in our town, we actually have a bad check fee that we charge to whoever wrote a bad check.
Right, usually about $20 or so, a little bit of a penalty. Obviously, no one is always happy about coming to a municipality to pay the taxes, but in the case of municipalities in New Jersey, we are a collection office. We don't take, if you give us $1,000 in a tax payment, we're not keeping $1,000 here. We might be keeping 25 cents of that money and sending out the balance of that, 75 cents on the dollar, to the county, to the school. Maybe there's a fire district or a special district. So obviously dealing with the public sometimes when they get a little agitated is also sometimes the role of the CFO.
They think we get all that money, and they don't realize that I still have in my case here, I have a local school, a regional school in the county, and they get their levies every month or quarter.
Right.
And they get it in full, whether I've collected it or not collected it.
Yeah, that's actually something as far as what we call the reserve for uncollected taxes. In a town where we have, say, a 99% collection rate, which is a good standard, I mean, for a town. In essence, when we look at the reserve for uncollected taxes, in the budget process, we actually have to levy 101% of the levies in order to get that 100% in, so we can hand out to those entities, correct?
Yes, and you're always taking steps. I mean, I have a tax collection office and a utility collection office, and I'm always overseeing and supervising, and we're making steps to improve and improve and improve. And we do a tax sale each year on outstanding unpaid bills.
Right, so let me clarify that. So when we look at at the end of our fiscal year, so if we are a calendar year where we run from January 1st through December 31st, there's a chance, a high probability, that somebody hasn't paid their taxes. And those taxes are what basically we refer to as going into tax sale, to your point. And tax sale doesn't mean that we are selling your property or something of that nature. We're selling the delinquency to a third party. Now, a resident who owes taxes, they're getting notices from the tax collector. And those notices can be simple: your delinquency is this, here's some interest. But when they start getting the tax sale notice, they get very emotional, because once again, they don't understand that that is something that's just a procedure. We're not selling their houses. We're simply selling the delinquency. And if a tax lien is issued, that resident who owns the property can redeem that and basically come into maybe some money or take a loan somewhere and redeem that tax sale, because taxes are a continuous lien on the property. So if you have a mortgage but you owe taxes to a municipality, the municipality has primary position on that.
It can be more than just the real estate taxes. It can be your water or sewer bills that are due. Right. And it can even be a municipal charge. Perhaps you had a property and didn't mow it, and then you were noticed that you have to take care of your property and never went, and we had to send out a crew to mow the property. We can assess a municipal charge, and that also can be a lien that is sold.
Now, I always love, unfortunately, dealing with those folks where we have no other option. We've contacted them, we've gotten code violations, but ultimately we as a town have to send out a work crew, and sometimes those property maintenance haircuts, shall we say, for high weeds or other debris, that can be the $600 property tax bill for just
I'm assessing the truck, the tractor, the trailer, the men, the safety equipment, everything involved.
So that being said, being a chief financial officer for a municipality is not always the glamorous job that some might think, but is certainly something that we try to be basically report to the residents of our town. We are the trustees for those residents who ultimately don't really get involved with the municipal finance day to day, but they rely upon you and me to make sure that our dollars are being spent wisely, dollars are being accounted for, and when it comes to audit, that our numbers will hold up in audit. So that being said, Garrett, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you
to
for
give
having
everybody a little bit information on what it is to be a CFO. So the next time you see your CFO, whether at the town or at a council meeting, be nice to your CFO. They're underappreciated, they work hard for you, and we always love working for you day in and day out. And thank you so much.
Thank you.